Welcome to Click to Learn More, the show that sounds like clickbait.
But it's actually two dorks.
I'm Dorm.
I'm Liddy.
Liddy,
Dorm.
we got a different one for you today.
A different one, he says.
So normally, there's an echo in here. So normally we talk about like things that interest us or things that we've read about or seen about that we thought the others should know about. I'm going to go back to something we kind of did or something I kind of did in the first episode.
Okay.
Which was History of Professional Wrestling. And in that episode, I really talked about wrestling, but almost talked more about my love for it than I did the actual history.
Yeah.
A, because that would have taken far too long. And B, talking about who won what and all that is kind of boring.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about something that is a little more, instead of something that I'm interested in, something that kind of got me here into wanting to do a podcast and wanting to do Twitch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Greg Miller.
What? I heard that guy's kind of funny.
All right, bye. We'll see you, everybody. It's been a good podcast. No. So I'm gonna reference the Wikipedia. Normally I write a script. I didn't write a script for this episode.
Okay.
Because I'm just gonna share stories. Because I actually have a few.
Okay.
So Greg, if you don't know Greg, is I'm on a first name basis with him. No.
We're best buds.
Greg Miller is, I guess you would technically say, is a content creator, if you want to use, that blanket term that everybody loves.
Yeah.
But he is currently one of the founders of Kind of Funny, which is an internet podcast and YouTube company.
Multimedia.
Yeah, they do Twitch streams. They do lots of things. They are
and then they're part of Rooster Teeth.
They're partnered with Rooster Teeth.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think they're owned by Rooster Teeth. I don't know the specifics.
I know that they have Kind of Funny gear in the Rooster Teeth store.
I think that's the partnership. And I
okay.
think they get along really. I don't know. I don't know the financials. I know that they work together.
Andy's been on Fun House, like open house and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
I am a huge fan of Greg's, but that all stems back from way, 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 way back.
Yeah.
So Greg is originally from Chicago.
Okay.
Unincorporated Glen Ellen, to be specific. He brings it up on everything.
Just really quickly, I just want to point that, like, this is not a joke. He's not referring, like, he's kind of freaking me out because he's not referring to it. Like, normally he and I sit here and we have our phones out and we're like reading notes.
Yeah.
It's off the dome.
Well, because if you watch the raccoon video enough, he says unincorporated Glen Ellen about 50 times. So I remembered it.
You have
deep ditches in unincorporated Glen Ellen.
That's true.
But no, Greg. So Greg's from Chicago. He went to school at University of Missouri, Mizzou, who he is still very much involved with. He did like one of the voiceovers for one of their commercials.
Oh, really?
Which is very jarring for me because I just saw it on TV one day and I was like,
you were like, I know that.
That's Greg's voice.
Yeah.
Like I knew that he had done something for the university, but I hadn't seen the commercial yet. And I was like, oh, it's Greg. That's weird. Like it just kind of caught me off guard because normally it's some like really deep old man, it's just like
plus
the
not
University of Kentucky, like
not seeing
him. That's weird too. And he wasn't like audacious out there, Greg. Right. He was just like very stern. Yeah, I mean, he was pumped up.
You just hear a voice and you're like, wait a minute, that's familiar to me for a reason.
But not too familiar.
But not too not familiar. It's a new grace.
So after he was at Mizzou, he worked at a newspaper in Missouri where he started a column called Game Over, which is where Game Over Greggy comes from.
Yeah.
And so he wrote about games in the newspaper he worked for.
Okay.
Then he applied notoriously, by his account, I think I'm getting this number right, 13 times to IGN.
What?
Or to different like games companies. And on the 13th time, they called him,
Lucky 13.
interviewed him, and hired him within like a day.
Nice.
So he started working at IGN. And I want to just give a little background of where I'm at this point. This was 2007.
You're an embryo.
I was 12.
You're a literal fetus.
I got my PS3 in 2009.
Okay.
Because if you remember, PS3.
You couldn't hold it yet because you were literally a fetus.
Yes. They did legally. I wasn't allowed to own one yet. You had to be older than.
Against the law.
You had to be older than 3 to own a PS3.
It was against the law for you to have it. You could have gone to baby jail.
Yeah.
They would have made you join the infantry.
Oh, all right, everybody. That's it. I made the joke already. Dang. That was a good one. That was really good. You almost spit out your soda there. Nicely done.
I got myself with my own joke.
So when Greg just started IGN, I was 12. So I was not yet reading games coverage.
So if Greg hears this, he's going to feel real good about himself.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. But I was 12 and I didn't have a PS3 yet. When I got my PS3 in 2009, because if you remember, PS3s were really expensive when they came out the gate.
Yeah,
they were $600.
Yeah,
so
me and my little PS2 have been happy ever since.
Yeah, so I had a PS2, and then like I don't remember the year Xbox came out. It was 05, I think. So a couple years after that was when it got low enough where I could get one for Christmas. And then a couple years later, a buddy of mine had Little Big Planet.
Ooh.
And we played Little Big Planet nonstop. So when I was like 14, I asked for one for Christmas.
Gotcha.
So when I got my PS3, 2009, I played for a little bit. I basically just played Little Big Planet and Rock Band and Fallout New Vegas, weirdly enough. Like that's the one.
The 3 staples
Yeah,
that everybody plays.
because I played Fallout 3 on 360, and when the new Fallout came out, I was like, this is the one like adult game I play. So I'm gonna grab this one on PS3 this time.
Gotcha.
So I was weirdly like back and forth between systems.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of jumping consoles a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't really care. It was just like whichever game was either cheaper or I got for Christmas or whatever.
One you wanted to play.
Yeah. So I was lucky to have both consoles, although I was probably playing games that were like 2 or 3 years older than release date, but I didn't care. It was a new game to me, right?
Yeah.
And so around 2011, I actually did the research and found out when I started listening.
Oh.
I would have been 16 at this point.
Okay.
So somewhere between 2010 and 2011, I'm not sure exactly the time I started, was when I was really getting into like games coverage and reading about like what games are coming out.
And like journalism.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
So I remember like I remember friends having like the games magazines.
Yeah.
Like,
Game Informer.
Yeah.
And like
that
all
would
that stuff.
That would tell you, what's coming out next and have
PC
little
magazine,
periodicals
all
and
that
stuff.
Yeah.
But it was really sort of as I was getting into games coverage that I, in my head anyway, that like internet games coverage really kind of took over as the mainstream gaming thing.
Gotcha.
So like I remember watching my first E3 on G4, which is no longer a channel
not
anymore.
A thing anymore, yeah.
But I remember watching my first E3, my first Comic-Con when I was like 15 on G4.
Wow.
And it was like Kevin Pereira and like the whole what was the name of that show? It was just like, their whole G4 squad.
Was it
Attack of the Show was Kevin Pereira's, but then their X-Play was the other one.
Oh, okay.
And both of those shows I like obsessed over. Then there was a show called Cheat that came on.
G4?
Yeah. And it's funny because Bruce from Funhouse has talked about this, but it came on at like 1 a.m. And I used to watch it obsessively.
Was he on it?
He worked in G4.
Okay. I remember like there's some kind of terrible video or
that's
like,
on Attack of the Show of him doing the opera performance in drag.
Yeah. Poor Bruce.
I love Bruce. But anyway, there's a show called Cheat where they would air cheat codes for games.
Yeah.
And we all had computers.
And you like had to write it down.
You had to wait
write
for it to show, and then you'd be like,
and then
what was the cheat code about? But I loved it.
What was it? Really?
I didn't own most of these games, but I just loved watching it.
Writing them down, like.
Well, no, I just loved seeing like, what are games? What's happening in games? I guess I was just like really passionate for games and just watched anything that
so wild
had it.
To think that that's a thing because the internet existed.
Yeah, internet was in full fledged at this point.
But you have to watch at a certain. This is like old school like TRL when you like call in and request and then you have to sit by your TV and wait till see if they play your request on TRL and you're like, oh, there it was, my song I wanted to see plus 14 minutes of a girl screaming her head off. Like
it'd be like if there was that in the era of YouTube. Like it kind of makes no sense.
Yeah, that's kind of straight. But like this was. Well, I was gonna say it was popular, but G4 is not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But like,
they had a good run. G4 had a good run.
Fairly popular, right?
So,
that it was a thing.
So anyway, that was sort of the same time that I was getting into reading online games coverage. And if you've read online games coverage, then you're probably going to end up at IGN.
Yeah.
You're probably going to end up at Kotaku and Polygon now. But at that point, all I really knew was IGN. I was reading IGN every day. I was like, I wasn't really in their forums, but I would read forum threads or read like walkthroughs of games I was playing. Like I was on IGN constantly.
Don't they still boast like one of the most active forums or most active comment sections ever? Me. Like they still talk about it being like one of the most, I guess, populated forums or something. Anyway.
So around that time was Podcast Beyond 200.
Okay.
And I don't remember if this was my first episode. I kind of think it was because it would have been promoted as a big deal.
Yeah.
They did it live.
Oh.
And it was probably the first podcast I ever listened to.
Oh, that's cool.
Because like, do you remember what your first podcast was?
My first podcast? I don't know.
Right?
I probably listened to a show online without realizing that was a podcast because I didn't even know what a podcast was really until they started calling it a podcast. So it was probably something humorous though.
Yeah. So I like, this is the last or the first one I can trace back. So Podcast Beyond, when I started listening to it, was Greg, Colin Moriarty, and I think Andrew Goldfarb were all on the staff. The staff rotated a lot. So if I'm messing this up, I messed it up. But I started listening to that pretty religiously in high school.
Gotcha.
And when I was in high school, I would play games. I would listen to Beyond, and I would play like Call of Duty. It's so weird. You know how you can...
those are like intertwined for you. That's really cool.
So there's a series of Batman comics, the early part of New 52 stuff, like Court of Owls stuff, that I associate with a Tune Yards album. And if I see that, I hear the album. And if I hear the album, I think of the Batman comics.
Okay.
Just because I listened to them at the same, or I listened and read them at the same time.
I have one of those too. It was in Borderlands 2. I was listening to My Brother, Me episode, and there was a particularly funny joke. And I can remember right now where I was in the map at the time the joke was said, because it just like that little moment is like cemented in my brain. And it's such a weird thing, because now when I go back and play it and I get to that point, I hear that in my head again, which is such a weird combination of things to have. But that's a really cool, like, wound up ball of memories to have. I like that.
So I associate pretty much all the games that I played in the probably like prime lifetime of the PS3 with Podcast Beyond.
That's cool.
Because I would go upstairs to my room. I was lucky enough to have a computer in my room. It was old, but it worked, and it was, it was fine. It was a hand-me-down computer, but it worked. And so I would pull up Beyond, and I would sit in my computer chair and turn my chair to my TV, and I would play games while Beyond was on.
So it'd be on your speakers.
Yeah, I would listen to it on my computer speakers and then listen to the game from the TV.
Remember when computer speakers were a thing?
Right.
Like for a while, like sold as giant, like,
I mean, I still have some. Those are the same ones that I would have been listening on, I think. I've had those Logitech speakers forever.
Oh my gosh, I remember those, and they had the little turning knob and turn them up and down. Oh, that's like old school for me now.
Yeah. But so that was Podcast Beyond. That was my relationship with Greg. That was weird. that was my like knowledge of Greg.
First blossomed.
So, Greg was obviously writing on IGN as well, and he was doing other things like Game Scoop, which was like, so Podcast Beyond was just PlayStation centric.
Yeah.
And Game Scoop was just more wide, broad game coverage.
Okay.
And they would have like topics of like, the big topics of the week or whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course Greg was just doing other video stuff. And he sort of was kind of put into a more like face of the company role later on, like as I was late in high school. So I was starting to watch more and more IGN stuff. Greg kept popping up. And so because I already knew Greg and loved him from Beyond, I was like, I'm just in. Like I found someone I really like.
Yeah.
And also I found myself aligning with like Greg's opinions a lot. And I think that's really important to find in like games reviews. So a lot of people will get bad coverage if their review is vastly different in one way or another, right? Yeah. Like if let's say the writer for Polygon gives Days Gone, a game that's about to come out, which will be out by the time you hear this, but let's say he gives Days Gone a 10 and everybody else averages around an 8, then he's probably going to get called out for like, why did you like this game so much? Yeah. Of course, the inverse is possible. If everybody gets it a 10.
That happened with Gris. So like a lot of people, like it got like a 7 somewhere, but like 9s and 10s or 6.5 in one place and like 7s and 10s in the others. And people were in the comments like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Like, you're going to give it a 6.5? Are you out of your mind? Like overnight, I was just like, oh, like this is legit.
It's Goodfellas has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes because one guy gave it a 2 out of 5.
Whoa.
And everybody's like, you're insane. But I think in games reviews, there's a lot more of a spectrum. And I think it's more important to find a person or people you generally tend to agree with to inform yourself on whether you should buy a game or not, right? Like, and Greg was that for me. Like, I knew that if Greg liked a game, I was probably going to like it. And that wasn't just me like, I like Greg, so I like Greg's games. Right. Because I liked a lot of people at IGN.
Similar opinions.
But I seem to line up the most with Greg's opinion.
And that's really important to have, though, too. Like, especially in something as kind of subjective as a video game. Like, you and I have very vastly differing opinions of what makes a good game. Right. But, like, I would still trust your opinion if you said, hey, I think you'd like this game. Like, we would know each other well enough to know that we would like it.
And it's funny because there's some games that we both like that we know the other wouldn't like. Yeah. And that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
But it was really important for me as a broke high school kid. Right. Because like I get to buy one game in 3 months. Yeah. Greg is over the moon about this, about whatever game this is. All right, I'm going to give it a shot.
Blockbuster's already gone at this point. Can't go rent them.
You could rent games at this time, yeah.
Okay.
At least in my small town Kentucky town, it took a lot longer for that to phase out than most places.
They couldn't get to them.
We didn't even have a Blockbuster. We just had like a local store that had like video rentals and
we
game
had one
rentals.
of those too.
That's
and
funny.
then it went out of business.
Yeah, I don't want to say the name because it's probably really specific, but
because a Blockbuster came in.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we weren't even big enough to get a Blockbuster.
That was my first job, Blockbuster. I was 18 years old.
My first job was DJing weddings.
Well, see,
that's how I bought games.
That's kind of representative of who you are as a person now, I think. So
yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Your origin story makes sense.
So then, I guess Greg getting pushed to like I forget what his official title was, but like face of the company kind of role. That sort of coincided with me going to college.
Okay.
So when I was a freshman in college, there is one thing more than any PS3 game that I tie with Podcast Beyond. That was Drawing One in college.
Really?
Yeah, because if you're unfamiliar, I have a design degree, and in art school, or in like the art school that I went to,
you had to take drawing.
you have to take every core class. You have to take everybody has to take Drawing 1 and Drawing 2. That's for every major. But then everyone has to take ceramics, metalsmithing,
3D design.
3D design,
2D design.
2D. I'm trying to think. Sculpture, which is different than ceramics.
Yeah.
Painting, photography, and printmaking.
Yeah.
So everybody has to take those.
That's the first time I've heard them all laid out like that since I've had to do them.
Yeah, Lydia and I had the same degree. We went to the same school. But in drawing, I had a professor who was like, oh, and also these classes are a lot longer. So they're only 2 days a week. They're not like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like a lot of college classes, they're either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. But they're 2:50, I think.
Almost 3. Yeah,
I think it's 2 hours, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So
ridiculously long.
That makes scheduling gen eds a problem because they don't run on the same schedule as everybody. But anyway, so every time you went to drawing 2 days a week, you would sit in there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's sort of when I started finding other podcasts, but would get so amped for Podcast Beyond to come out. So it was on Tuesday, Thursday when I had drawing.
Yeah.
Podcast Beyond always came out on Tuesdays. That will stick with me forever. That's the only podcast Tuesday I remember.
Nice.
But it came out on Tuesdays. And so I would listen to it the day it came out. And then like with the rest of the time.
Class?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
So yeah, we had
I didn't
headphones.
Get to do that.
We were allowed to like have headphones in or whatever and just draw away.
Jealous.
And yeah, that was another.
You came
like,
along
really
after
lucky
me
thing.
though, so they had loosened up after our class.
We also had a very hippie teacher, so it was fine.
No, that's fair.
But yeah, so I would listen to Beyond like once a week when I was drawing. And then like if there was no other podcast I was interested in, I would go back and listen to old Beyonds.
Yeah.
So Beyond and like using charcoal on that really weird paper.
Oh, the newspaper. What do they call that? Yeah, I know what
I don't remember
about.
what it's called, but like just that really specific drawing paper.
Yeah.
Like that is so Podcast Beyond to me.
Yeah.
And it was really strange because I got curious the other day and I was like, I want to go back and just listen to a random episode that I listened to. Not like 300, which I've listened to a bunch of times, which is like a big special, and Greg gets very emotional and it's really cute.
I love that.
But like I wanted to go listen to like, 257 or whatever.
Right.
And it ended up being, it was so funny because I was like, I'm going to listen to something while I play Transistor. This was as I was getting the Transistor Platinum.
Okay.
And I went back really recently and did that.
Okay.
It's a great game.
Just gotta throw that in there.
But I went back to get that platinum and I was like, I just want something to listen to, even though that game score is amazing. I was just doing like the challenge stuff, so I needed some audio on.
Yeah.
And I ended up listening to the episode where they debated. It was the week Transistor came out.
Oh shoot!
And so I was like,
accidentally?
Well, not accidentally. It was I'm going to aim for this certain area, and one of them was like Wolfenstein versus Transistor, and I was like, that works.
Yeah, why not?
So I listened to that, and it was great, and it was weirdly nostalgic.
Aw.
Even though it's only been like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really cool.
So he's been in the industry for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
For a huge chunk of his adult life.
And for most of my life.
Yeah, and for most of your life.
Like someone who reads games and stuff.
So the influence that he has on you, like that's palpable.
Yeah.
Like I could see that being.
And it's really weird. Well, we'll get to that later. I was going to say that like another trait that I picked up from Greg, I'm basically just trying to become Greg. If you haven't caught on. No. But another trait I picked up from him
He doesn't mean an FBI. He doesn't mean it. Greg is safe, I promise.
I'm not going to steal your skin. Everything's cool.
Whose skin? Who said skin?
I don't know.
I meant identity.
You said FBI. Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Straight to just wearing the man's skin like a suit.
Listen.
I was listening, and so was the FBI. Him right here, officer. This man. This one right here.
So trophy hunting is another thing I got from Greg, not his skin. Not yet. So so like I didn't care about trophies or achievements. Actually, that's a lie. I did get most of the achievements on Halo 3.
Okay.
And I got most of the achievements on the game You Don't Know Jack, which is made by the people who make the Jackbox games.
Yeah.
But it was the standalone You Don't Know Jack game that
just by itself.
Yep, it was just like 150 rounds of trivia, and it was awesome.
Well,
and I platinumed it, got all the achievements in Xbox.
I was gonna say I could definitely see you winning a trivia game.
But it was so like kooky. It's so fun. Anyway,
without a doubt.
So I didn't really care about it unless it was a game I loved. I got a lot of the achievements in Fallout 3. But that was just because like I was looking for something else to do in that game because I loved it so much. And then when I started listening to Beyond, of course, they talk about like what trophies are good, what trophies are, easy platinums, things like that. There was like a Hannah Montana game that they all played just to get.
I know this because they said it's like it used to be the easiest one, and now it's like not even on the top 10.
No, because people have made games just to get the platinum.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the Hannah Montana game because that was kind of before my time. But I did do My Name is Mayo, which was a game that came out on PS3 and Vita.
What?
Which is, I kid you not, just tapping a jar of mayo.
What?
And however many times it was would ping a trophy. I absolutely bought that game just to get the platinum.
How much did you spend on this game?
It was like $1.
And to
get an imaginary trophy, yeah.
To get a platinum.
Absolutely.
You spent $1 for an imaginary trophy. Okay.
Yep, don't regret it at all.
Okay.
Because I got 2 of them because I bought it once and got 2
Because I
actually just did it again. There was a game called like Super Weekend Mode or something like that that came out that I saw Ray Narvaez tweet about.
Okay.
That was like, it's like $5 and it's like an easy platinum. I was like, all right. So I bought it because it was on sale for $3. Yeah, this was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God. Because you wanted that platinum.
Yeah, because I wanted the platinum.
Because you needed
I got to up my numbers.
For your digital trophy shelf.
I just hit trophy level 20. Calm down. It's cool.
Trophies have levels?
Yeah, so like you level up with your trophies. So I'm now level 20 because I took a long break in like college when I was doing PC stuff.
I'm just a little pleb PC player.
Yeah.
I don't have.
You have Steam achievements?
I do. That's true. I do have.
Who cares about Steam achievements?
Who cares about your silver fake platinum trophy?
A lot of people.
I said silver and then platinum, but who?
Games will legitimately get like a boost in sales if they have a platinum trophy or versus over if they don't. So there are like a lot of smaller games that just have 100% that you can't actually get the platinum in.
Yeah.
But if it has like a platinum,
if it has a possibility to get a platinum,
sales may actually go up a little bit.
It's
kind of ridiculous.
Wild.
I would love to see how much money they made on My Name is Mayo because it's literally all trophy hunters.
To get just a free, okay, so you have, based on how many platinums you have, your personal level goes up.
Yeah, it's based on however many trophies overall you have.
Oh, so not just platinum.
Right, but like bronze is worth however many points, silver's worth however many, gold's worth however many.
You can go back if you bronze trophy a game, you can go back and work it your way up to platinum.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you're
a
not
platinum
stuck with that one.
a platinum trophy is given to you once you achieve all of the trophies in a game.
Okay.
So getting 100% of the trophies in the game gives you the platinum.
Okay. So I got you. So as it were like on Steam, it would be an achievement in a game that's a trophy.
Yes.
Okay. And then once you get all of those trophies, you get the platinum.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You churn all of the regular trophies, you blend them all up together, and you spit out a platinum.
No, they just give you another one. It's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to put them into a grinder.
You gotta melt them down in a kiln.
You gotta make platinum sausage.
Yeah.
Watch a lot of sausage. Sausage making is interesting.
I don't know why that grossed me out.
But so I got trophy hunting from him. I have 29 platinums currently speaking, which like not great, but it's not too bad.
Okay.
Like there's a guy in chat who has like 550. Okay. Like
550.
Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, this is off the rails a little bit, but I was like, do you just platinum every game you buy? And he's like, yeah, basically. He's like, unless it's impossible or unless there's like a lot of online trophies.
What do you get out of it?
The satisfaction of getting a platinum trophy, Liddy.
Okay, cool. When you're dead and they bury you, I'll go, hey, wait, hold on. Let's grab all of his invisible platinum trophies.
You don't think I'm going to get a print made of however many trophies I had?
I can't wait.
Put it by the casket.
I can't wait. I can't wait till you do. I want you in a photo next to it with your thumbs up.
Yeah, okay.
And I want to see,
make this happen.
And I want to see the amount of money coming out of your bank that you spent so that you could get all these platinum trophies.
Most of them were games I was going to buy anyway. There might be like $10 worth of platinum purchases.
I can imagine you looking at a game and being like, do I want it? Maybe. Oh, it's got a platinum trophy.
You're totally not wrong.
Oh,
there have been games where I've not bought them because they don't have a platinum.
What?
There is a game.
Oh, you're like ashamed a little bit.
There's a game called NBA Playgrounds.
Okay.
You know how much I love NBA Street.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite games of all time.
And it doesn't have a platinum, so you won't buy it.
It looks just like NBA Street, but it doesn't have a platinum.
Okay.
And so because it doesn't have a platinum, I'm like, I would have to play this game to get the platinum. It doesn't have one. What's the point of just getting 100% trophies? I'm not going to play it.
What's the point of just 100%ing something when you could 101%?
Because you don't get the freaking reward for it.
But you get a gold
It's weighted
trophy.
so much in your... Yeah, but who cares? It's weighted so much in your thing.
Is the joy of the game not enough for you anymore?
No.
No.
Listen, I'm at the point right now where if there's a game that comes out on all platforms, I buy it on PS4 just for the trophies.
Even if you think you might enjoy it more on
PC.
On a PC.
Yeah. Unless it's like a hardcore shooter.
Yeah.
Or like
fair.
Apex, which is free.
Which is free regardless, yeah.
So like I will mostly play games on PlayStation now.
Okay. Well, I mean, your last few stream games, now you're doing Breath of the Wild, which is on Switch, but
Yeah.
like the last couple you've been doing were on were on PS4.
I got that Bloodborne Platinum. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Anyway.
Off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. So Greg then went, I'm trying to trace back to where we were. So I was in college. And I was listening to Beyond like every week and was watching more and more video stuff. And my roommate at the time, Andrew, he and I would like watch it together and we would like listen to Beyond while we were playing games in the dorm.
Yeah.
And it's like a very weirdly like just a sweet little thing for me.
Yeah.
Like it's a little time capsule, just,
Yeah.
you know, going back and watching videos with young Greg, baby Greg.
Little baby Greg.
Because I was also a baby.
Yeah. Still are, but okay.
Yeah, well. So then after college, I think in 2015, so I actually would have still been in college. I think that's right. He announced that he was doing his own YouTube channel called Game Over Greggy, where he was doing these segments. One was called A Conversation with Colin, where he would just ask Colin things and they would talk about it. One was called Oreo Oration, where he would try different types of Oreos. Have I ever shown you any Oreo Orations?
I think we've talked about it before.
Okay, we'll have to watch
I've
one.
definitely heard you say that statement before.
They're great. So anytime I dunk an Oreo, I'll go like the 1, 2, 3. That's from Oreo Oration.
Okay, gotcha.
There's then he also had a show which I really loved and it just kind of ended, but I know why it did. Called Gregway, which was just like people asking him questions and he would answer them. But that's when like there was one with like Barbara Dunkelman in it, and there was one with Gavin in it. So it was like that's kind of where that started infiltrating.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So then he, Colin Moriarty, Tim Geddes, and Nick Scarpino, 4 guys from IGN, they left to found Kinda Funny.
Okay.
Because also on that YouTube channel, they were doing the Game Over Greggy show, which was just a podcast with the 4 of them just sitting around a table.
Yeah. Love
Each
it.
had a topic.
Yeah.
That's how they would roll.
Yeah.
Huge inspiration for me, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was listening to Game Over Greggy show every week. They filmed it in the spare bedroom, not in like the office we taped this or record this in.
Yeah.
Like it was just in a spare bedroom in Greg and Colin's house. So then they found Kinda Funny. They're leaving IGN.
Yeah.
They're like one of the first people I ever remember doing a Patreon.
Oh,
like
okay.
Patreon features them a lot now because they were one of their first like early success stories. I pledged
Didn't really blow it out of the water a little bit.
Yeah, they
that's what I
destroyed
thought.
it.
That's what I thought.
I was a broke college kid who pledged $1 a month to that Patreon on both Patreons because I was here for it. And so yeah, we and I guess that's Kinda Funny has morphed a lot since then, obviously.
Yeah.
Like people have left, people have joined. My boy Andy has joined.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/Andy Cortez. I think that's right. I don't think it's Maximum Cortez on Twitch. Oh no, I'm gonna have to check.
No, yeah, it's gonna bother you
Because like some of his stuff is Maximum Cortez.
It's gonna upset you now if it's incorrect.
But yeah, like Andy's joined, Joey Noelle has joined, who is a community member, and now she's like community manager, I think is her official role.
Ooh.
But they are fantastic. It is Andy Cortez. We're good. I had to make sure.
That's respectful.
They were also like, okay, so you aren't super familiar with like the sports world,
Right.
especially sports reporting.
That is very kind of you to say. I know nothing about it.
you know a little bit.
You can tell it like
you can
it
talk
is.
basketball.
I know the difference between a touchdown and a free throw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different sports.
Is it? Oh, I know nothing
Let's start
about
a Harlem Globetrotter show then.
Yeah. I take it back. I know nothing. No, but I am not versed in
So there was a show
the sports.
that I watched. Of course, I've always been a big sports fan. Which sounds like sports fan sounds like sort of an insult somebody would use.
Yeah.
Like, you sports fan.
Sports fan. I always think of like the opening scene of any like baseball game. It's like, hello, sports fans. Here we go
that's a
down to
good
the
one,
field and blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever. Like every opening of a
Right.
baseball game ever is like, it's a beautiful day on the field today, sports fans. Like it's
Right.
almost, I don't know, patronizing in a way.
Yeah.
A little bit.
But I've always been a big sports fan. And
You've always patronized yourself. Got it.
yeah, well, it's so funny to me. Sorry. Real quick.
Look on your
I'm going to put a pin in it to steal a Gregism.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me to see people who hate sports. Like, because in the nerd circle that we live in, a lot of people really hate sports for some reason.
Kind of just against it as a whole.
Just don't like sports.
Yeah.
But it's so funny to me to see them get into Overwatch League. I'm like, y'all, this is sports. You're doing the same exact
I think
thing
you
we
tweeted
do.
that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because
I
it's
don't
so
understand
bizarre.
People who hate sports but love Overwatch League. Yeah.
It's literally the same thing.
It's
Anyway,
the same thing. Yeah.
like we're all nerds for something. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
It's
don't
cool.
matter.
Everybody be a nerd for whatever you're nerd for. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there was a sports show called there were a bunch, but one was called Pardon My Take.
Okay.
Which was, or sorry, pardon the interruption. Pardon My Take is the Barstool Sports podcast.
Gotcha.
I'm going to say that again. It's called Pardon the Interruption.
Pardon the interruption. Okay.
And it was two old guys who would just cover the news. And what?
I'm thinking of the two Muppets from.
I mean, you're not that far off.
Like,
The Muppets?
Is it just the Muppet Show?
Yeah.
The two Muppets. Those
Statler and Waldorf?
Yeah, Waldorf is who I was thinking of.
I remembered that, but I couldn't remember Pardon the Interruption, a show that I watched for years. It's cool.
This is why this works so well.
Yeah. I know their names were Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon.
Between the two of us, we've got 2 brain cells at least.
That's
right?
true. So I watched that show for a long time, and basically Colin and Greg started on Twitch the nerd version of that.
Okay, gotcha.
Which was, and that's a little dismissive of Colin and Greg in the Colin and Greg morning show. What do they call it? Because it's called the Kind of Funny morning show now. Is it called the Colin and Greg show? I think so. I think it was CGS. I think that's right. God, I've had my mind wiped from Men in Black. I don't remember the name. This is just going off the rails. Anyway, so I would watch that every day in between class.
Okay.
Because it was like at 11 p.m. Pacific, so it was like 2 p.m. here.
Yeah.
And so like it just worked out that in between classes I could go watch.
And this was on Twitch
Colin
at
Greg.
the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were like, do you remember before on Twitch, before we had like the talk show tag? Mm-hmm. I think that's probably what created it.
Okay.
Because that show did like really well.
Okay.
And so they still do it. It's called the Kind of Funny Morning Show now, which is a much better name.
Yeah.
And now they do other podcasts after it, and they film them all live and then put them on the YouTube.
Okay.
And it's just the reason I love Greg's story and so much is because like in my head, it's really easy to compare. I know he's from like Chicago originally, but in my head, it's really easy to compare like Missouri and Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Like they're pretty, I mean, they share a border, but like they're very similar in kind of vibes and stuff.
Yeah.
And to hear somebody come out of UM like and just make it so big is really cool.
Yeah.
And another thing I love about Greg, and you hear this a lot, there was a write-up on Kotaku or Polygon 1 about just Greg in general. Like there's a big like just a big piece about Greg. And you always, without a doubt, and this has to be so much pressure for him to maintain, but you always hear like how great he is with fans.
Yeah, that's what I was. The one thing that I knew, kind of like, I mean, because you obviously introduced me to Kind of Funny, which then like spiraled into all of the other like avenues that they have. But the one thing that when I looked it up was like constantly kind, like super sweet, like took time out to like say hi to me and my friends, and like took extra time to talk to me and my husband or whatever. Like, you know, like there's nothing but nice stories about him, that's kind of nice to see, to know that somebody can be like small hometown-ish type place, blow up as big as he has, and then still be humble and still be kind and still be down to earth. That's something
I know that I don't want it to sound at all like, which if you know me, you know I'm not going to try to like hype myself up to this level, but that's something that I really aspire to be.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm at however many Twitch follows now. It's, you know, it's a drop in the bucket.
1906, I think.
Okay, well, you didn't have to call it out.
Almost 2000?
All right, Miss 2000.
No. Not talking about me. We're talking
the Millennium over there. Got her. But like even at that small of a scale, that's some mentality that I've taken into account with the community we have.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and I think the community reflects that back, both in Kind of Funny's community. Of course, there are going to be sour apples every now and then, but that's just the internet.
Right.
I feel like I have learned a lot from Greg and company. It's not just Greg. I don't want to, you know, diss everybody else.
I don't think anybody's
in this story, it's Greg.
Nobody's going to believe that you're going to say like, I love Greg, but screw those other guys, you know, like
F Nick. No, I'm just kidding. But like seeing the community that they've built and seeing how positive it is compared to a lot of other internet communities I'm part of.
Yeah.
It's very similar to the McElroys in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's like the positivity really does like become cyclical and then just breed itself.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've really trying to take toward Twitch and toward this, you know, this podcast and things.
And that's content that's always going to be easily digestible. You're always going to want, like in some form of your mind, you're always going to gravitate towards the person saying like, you know what? This was kind of a nice time, as opposed to the person that's like, I hated it. It sucked. Never going to do it again. Like, your human nature, you want to believe in something good. You want to believe in something good. Like, you want to gravitate towards that. I feel like that's why, like, the community that you've built has been so successful, is because, like, you welcome in these people with positivity and then they reflect it back at you, and it just becomes this, like, really nice, like, echo chamber of everybody just greeting each other and being kind to each other. And I mean, like, who wouldn't want that? Right. Like, why would you not want to be part of that? And like, even being inspired to be on Twitch and having the courage to try stuff like that, that's all Greg. Like, I've seen somebody do it and try it and not be afraid to fail or make a joke of themselves for the sake of the content, and that's something I've taken away. I've neglected to mention a few personal stories, which I'll get into now. So when I was in high school listening to Podcast Beyond, back to the PS3 days, I was didn't quite know it was going to be my career designer kind of kid. Okay. So I was playing around in Photoshop a lot. I know. And I was doing a lot of silly stuff in Photoshop, but I also, some of them are really great though.
Yeah, great is one way to put it. The first thing that got me into Photoshop, my dad had a free copy of like Photoshop Elements or whatever it was. Yeah. And this was also when like Need for Speed was really big and the Fast and Furious movie was really big. And I think like Tokyo Drift was probably out right at this time. And I did something called photoshopping, which was photoshopping regular pictures of cars to make them look like Street Riders and put like whatever graphics you want onto them. Mm-hmm. They were awful, but I did learn the program. So anyway, fast forward a little bit. I was probably like 16 or 17 and I was like, I can draw. Sure. Yeah. I can't. Luckily, that's not something I need to do in my job. But I was like, I'm going to draw Greg.
Because you were too busy listening to the podcast and drawing one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, this is before then, but this point still stands. But I was like, I'm going to draw Greg. Mm-hmm. And it's the only celebrity I ever drew. It was the one that I was like, I got to draw Greg. So I drew Greg and it must have been awful. I don't know if there's got to be a picture somewhere, right? But I don't know where it is.
Oh, probably for the best.
And like, I remember it. I can see it. Yeah. And like when I was like 16, I was like, okay, this is wrong, but it's good, right? And now I see it, I'm like, God, it was so bad. But I sent it to IGN.
Like mailed it.
Yes. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is probably, I mean, Twitter was probably a thing, but this was probably like tweeting pictures at people. Yeah. At least it was for me. And so I guess Twitter was a thing because I put my handle on the thing. Oh. And I like wrote a really sappy letter about how much Greg meant to me and all this, sweet shit. And it was very saccharine. And I mailed it. And then one random day I get like a tweet. This is from my own personal account, so it wasn't a dorm stream, so I can't like show you. But it was like at my personal handle and it was like, thanks for the drawing. I love it, or something like that. Oh, I did cry a little. Because that really meant sweet. A lot to me.
Well, yeah. And plus, somebody in his like line of work, which we know now to be incredibly hectic and incredibly time consuming, to take the time to go, like this was really sweet and this meant a lot to me, and I'm gonna make sure that person knows I got it, and that I care. Like he didn't have to do that.
No, not at all.
He didn't have to.
I mean, it just speaks to him though. Like it
he could have tagged you and 10 other people and been like, hey, thanks for the art this week. Yeah, thanks for the fan art. But like to personally tag you and give you a message that's like, hey, I really appreciate this. Thank you. Yeah. Like,
he may not remember that, and that's fine. He didn't have to do that. Because it was probably like 10 years ago. But that's
really cool,
8 years ago. But yeah, it was really neat.
Cool thing.
I have a couple other stories. So they're all Twitter based. So
the internet's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So when Beyond hit 316, I made a wallpaper that had Stone Cold doing beers and it said Beyond 316 on it, and I think he retweeted that or something. That was my wallpaper for a long time because I love Beyond and I love wrestling, so I was like, yeah, this is great. Because I think they even made like Austin 316 jokes on the podcast because Greg's a huge wrestling fan too. Yeah. Well, it doesn't help. Or it doesn't hurt.
Which is another like thing that you have in common with your interests. Yeah.
And then when so when the Vita came out, or a little bit after the Vita came out, there were so many of these games that were like fake sounding games, like just obviously what they call shovelware, which is just like, games that were put on the system just to, if somebody's playing games, they might buy it and accidentally and, play it.
Accidentally.
It says the guy who bought My Name is Mayo.
Yeah.
But like there were a lot of these really crappy sounding games, and they used to run down all the games every week on Beyond and just be like, oh, well, this sounds like so stupid. So it became a running joke for a game to be called Knob Switch, where you just switch doorknobs around, because that was just the running joke. Podcasts do that. And so budding designer Dorm took it upon himself to make cover art for Knob Switch and tweeted it out. And Greg quote tweeted, he's like, this is the official art or something. Like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but like he quote tweeted and said something about it. And then like a few years ago, it was early on in the like Kind of Funny morning show days. They tweeted that they wanted a picture of, or Greg said on the show that he wanted a picture of Kevin Coelho, who is like one of their producers. He works Kind of Funny. Mm-hmm. As Mick Foley in the Wanted Mick Foley shirt. So if you know Cactus Jack, he wears like a red flannel.
Immediately just
as the show was going, yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time the show was over, I tweeted it.
Powered it up, like gotta go.
I was like, all right, Photoshop's open. Let me get my laptop out. Yeah. So I did that, and then like he retweeted or whatever. This is all very like, again, to him, maybe doesn't remember any of these, and they're all very small moments, but to me, they meant so much.
Right, yeah.
And I think that just speaks to like the reputation you hear of Greg. He's one of the only people that I've heard literally nothing but good things about.
Yeah.
There's actually a guest on the Kind of Funny Games Daily, I think. It wasn't the full Games Cast. Or I think that's where the story happened recently, where he was like a fan of Greg's for a long time and has now been working in the industry.
Yeah.
And he's like, the first time I ever met Greg, we passed each other. He was like, I was walking past the IGN building, and he was leaving, and he was like, hey, and Greg was like, hey, and then walked past. And he was like, for a long time, I was like, man, Greg is such a dick.
Oh,
because he didn't say anything. He's just like, hey, and then just walked away. Turns out that was the day Greg found out he had cancer.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
He was like, I felt awful for that for so many years, and then they met each other, and it was fine. But like, that was like, it takes that for, and I know that's a bit of an extreme, but it takes that for Greg to not interact with a fan. But that speaks to his character.
Still said something,
right? Yeah,
like regardless, like could have just not said anything,
right?
But still said something.
But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I
didn't know that he had cancer. I don't think I knew.
Yeah, he had lymphoma, I think.
Oh, wait, his mom didn't.
Yeah, she just recently got cancer.
Yeah, okay, because she's cancer free now. I think. I think she's been tweeting about being cancer free.
That sounds right.
I think that's correct. I'm gonna feel like a real douchebag if I'm not right. I'm gonna feel like a real.
I haven't seen, but yeah, Greg is just a huge inspiration to me. And this whole Dorm Streams thing probably wouldn't have been made without him.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Yeah. So, cause like it's weird to have such admiration for somebody you've never met.
Yeah.
Like that's such an odd thing.
Yeah. I think I've said that before about like Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm like, what is it called when you're proud of a person you've never met?
Right.
Like I want to see this person succeed and do well. And that kind of sounds like similar to like you and Greg. Like you want to see his career like blossom and grow as absolutely far as it can.
Right.
But I've never met him. Like, so you need to go to an RTX. Yeah. Is the thing.
That would be pretty cool. I've said not too long ago on the podcast, this was before like they had the Kind of Funny like contest for content creators or whatever. Before that, somebody was like, what are your bucket list things for your 20s or whatever?
Yeah.
And I was like, go to New York City because I've never done that.
Yep.
Go to WrestleMania because I've never done that, and meet Greg Miller.
Meet Greg, yeah.
Those are my 3.
Well, we've said that we would forego TwitchCon to go to RTX.
Yeah.
Like
just for that, basically.
Like fully selfishly, like instead of going to meet members of our community, we would go to meet Greg Miller and like the Funhouse gang and the Kind of Funny gang. Yeah. Like that's we're like, if the money can.
Yeah, I mean they're about the same money. I can meet Greg. But no, it's weird. Like it's so weird to me too because I've mentioned this. I've been lucky enough to actually find some Kind of Funny fans in our community.
Yeah, which was like fantastic.
Which is really bizarre when it happens because it's like I might be wearing my Party Mode shirt or my Cooking with Greggy shirt or something's like, is that a Cooking with Greggy shirt? And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, oh my god, I love Greg too or whatever. And so that's been really cool to be able to like meet little people from the community that also somehow come to our community.
Yeah,
but I've never been like super loud in the community. Like I'll go watch the Twitch show and not say anything.
Right.
Because chat's so hectic that I'm just like, they don't need me. You know, like I can,
like I'm not gonna add to the to the
I might like
voice.
message somebody else I know is watching it and we might talk about it. But like or I might say a few things in chat or whatever. But like for the most part, I'm pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And so it's this weird thing of like I've been a huge fan of Greg's and his work for however many years now that we just went over.
A chunk of your life.
Yeah, most of my adult life.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm still very quiet and I don't know if I'm like ever known in the community at all. So it's this weird dichotomy of like if someone asked me to prove that I was a Kind of Funny fan, I'd be like, I mean, yeah, I can just say all this stuff, but I've never been like in anything or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just this really weird thing of like there are tons of fans of pretty much everything. And it's something I try to keep in mind of too with like lurkers and things.
Yeah.
Like there are fans who aren't as involved and that doesn't make them any less of a fan.
Right.
And I think that's a really cool like part of that community because everyone I've met from the Kind of Funny community is incredibly nice.
Yeah.
And it's a very quick way to bond.
Yeah.
And have something
quotes
to talk
at each
about.
other and stuff like that, like straight out the gate. Yeah.
Immediately talk about the Grapefruit video.
Which was a nightmare.
Still one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. So good. If you haven't, if you listen to the show, if you haven't already, just go to YouTube, type in Kind of Funny Grapefruit. Thank me later. It's you will
and then tweet
die
at
laughing.
me and say, Liddy, you were right. It was terrible.
Optimally, you'll be watching it at work.
Oh no!
Watch it right in the middle of work. Full speakers on.
Yeah, take your headphones.
Show
out.
your boss. Say, hey, I found this really funny, wholesome video. You know what's funny though? I did show my boss at the agency I worked at.
Well, that makes sense.
He loved
to
it.
me.
Yeah,
that
we
makes
were tight.
I feel like that's something I could show to my bosses.
Yeah, that's true. It's a perk of the industry we work in.
True. Yeah. A little more laid back.
Also, really quickly, like I mentioned, cooking with Greggy. You know, I love cooking now.
Yeah.
The two biggest influences in cooking in my life, sorry, Greg, my mom first, because I grew up in the kitchen and like, you know, making mashed potatoes when I was like 10.
And you get in trouble if you didn't say your mom.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my mom would smack me. No, my mom wouldn't do anything, but she might smack me.
She wouldn't do anything. She might.
Like, she's never smacked me in my life. Well, apparently she did once when I was like 6 and I didn't know about it. I got popped in the mouth for saying something.
No,
and
she just hit you so hard you passed out. You don't remember it now.
Yeah, she knocked me straight out. Mom was actually a Golden Gloves boxer back in the day. She'll get a kick out of that. But no, like mom seriously is like the biggest influence in cooking and knowing how to do anything.
Yeah, for sure.
And knowing how to, you know, make basics and anything like that.
And be a human.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, pretty big part of that
and
too.
Be a decent human.
But like the party food that I first started making was because mom and I would spend all day in the kitchen before a Halloween party or whatever.
Yeah.
And now I know how to make party food.
Right.
The second biggest influence on my life in cooking is probably Greg.
I mean, you've told me that.
Yeah.
Like you started doing the like cooking with Dorm. Or
Right.
Dorm cook stuff.
Dorm cook stuff. Yeah, which is a total steal of cooking with Greggy.
Like you
absolutely 100%.
And then you did the charcuterie. I can never say it. Charcuterie.
Yeah.
You set that up and everything, and like we watched Kind of Funny videos while we ate that, and that was super cool because I think you tweeted that at Greg, and I think he liked it.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that you tweeted that out because we were both like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it! That's so cool."
Yeah, but like. I have the funny like connection point was when my mom bought me a Cooking with Greggy shirt for something, and I was like, all right, these two have aligned.
That's
my
cool.
two cooking
two
influences,
blended together there.
But yeah, the reason I started posting pictures on Twitter of any food thing was because Greg said, and this I don't know if it was just meant as like a throwaway line, but Greg was I forget what he's making. He's like, we don't cook for ourselves. We cook to impress other people with pictures on social media. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, like plating's half the fun.
If it's for yourself, you don't care what it looks like because you're just going to eat it.
Yeah, it's just slop. Who cares? But plating is so much fun that
if you put it out there. Yeah.
So yeah, basically I am just trying to become mini Greg Miller. And I've just kind of realized it in the course of the show.
Just a little baby Greg.
Yeah.
Just a little baby.
No, but like seriously, Greg is I hate to keep like hammering the same point home, but I don't know if Dorm Streams would exist without like Kind of Funny existing and Greg existing.
I mean, you have outside of this show told me like multiple times of the influence that he's had on your life, just like in your personal, creative, and like professional life. Like I found Kind of Funny and wanted to know about Kind of Funny because of you, and you weren't like, you know, shoving it in my face saying watch this, but you talked about them with such admiration and such care that it made me go, oh, I want to know. Like if you can have those feelings about, you know, this podcast and this show and these YouTube videos, like I want this feeling, like that sounds awesome. So then I started going out on my own and looking for stuff. And like, I mean, that's a testament to both you and the content that Kind of Funny and Greg put out because it made me want to learn more. And I think that's the most like, I mean, all in all, like, sure, views and clicks and stuff are important, but like that speaks volumes for your work when like somebody comes there through word of mouth from someone else. Thing, like that's the best way to get somebody to you, and you can't buy that kind of interaction.
That's true.
So thanks, Greg.
Yeah, if you're in this, seriously, thank you for everything. It's been like, over a decade of me listening to Greg talk, and somehow I'm still not tired of his voice.
If he hears this, are you gonna lose your mind?
I'll probably die.
Are you gonna lose your mind?
It's been a good run.
I'm gonna tweet it at him.
I'll never go back on the internet.
I'm gonna tweet it at him to hope that he gets to see it. If he listens to nothing but the first like 10 seconds or the last 15 seconds, I hope that he understands what an influence he's been on you. Just the positive, not the multitude of negative things you are. But
listen, there's some of those too.
I can't be nice to you for too long. I gotta be mean occasionally.
There's certainly like mannerisms I've picked up from different podcasts.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about this a bunch, but I just did it of going like, that's a podcast beyond thing. Yeah. That's exactly where I picked that up
because
from.
People can't see you. They just hear you. So like we talked about that as like when I feel silences now, I picked that up from you and you picked it up from him.
Yeah.
We're just like,
it's a podcast.
Just like, tell me more. Like, you know, it's like I'm encouraging you to speak more, but I don't want to interrupt you.
Right.
Which is, I normally do just interrupt you, I guess.
I mean, it also goes without saying that like this podcast would not ever exist.
Yeah, for sure.
The 3 podcasts I tried before this that all failed would not have existed if not for Greg. So
he's been a huge inspiration on you. I mean, I think that's plain to see. And it's a good, I mean, what better role model to have than somebody who has like 3/4 of the same interests you do.
Yeah.
And
is a shirtless psychopath. Sure.
And is shirtless Spider-Man.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. He's in the Spider-Man game.
Yeah. Which is fantastic. So.
All right. That's all. I'm done.
Are you feeling embarrassed now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because you bared your soul. You bared your soul and your heart. That's fair.
I don't gush that long for a lot of times.
That's true. And not in a recorded format. Like you've said nice things, but it's normally been like on stream and just for a couple of seconds or just like a couple of minutes where you talk about stuff. And then, inevitably, organically, the conversation moves along to something else. But you had to sit and like actually speak about it and bare your soul a little bit.
I'm a little embarrassed, not gonna lie.
I don't think you should be.
I don't think I should be either. It's just a weird thing to be like, I really love this person.
It's part of yourself. Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you're like talking in a way to someone or about someone that you're hoping will hear it, but then you're kind of like, oh no,
that's like, totally what it is.
I'm embarrassed, and that's just super sweet. I mean, he's meant a lot to you. I think it's important that he know. So,
thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Liddy, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/TeamLiddy. Where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/DormStreams.
There's also a merch store.
Dormstreams.co/store.
There's also Twitter and Instagram, and you have a Patreon. And YouTube. And
it's a weird pronunciation.
YouTube.
Discord.
Yes, we both have Discords. You're much more active in yours because mine is a ghost town.
Listen, people talk and I'm just like, hi guys. Everybody's like, hey Dorm. That's all I do.
I just I pop in and I'm like, possums.
Yeah.
Finger guns. I'm out.
Unfortunately, that is what you do.
Well, I can't keep it open.
Gotta stick to your brand.
I gotta stick to my brand, man. You know?
I think that's it. I think we put everything.
Posse.
Oh, real quick celebration point. If you want to add me on PlayStation now, it is officially Dorm Streams.
Yay! How long were you your other name?
Paratan21 for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 2009 was when I got my PS3.
Wow.
It was funny too because it was like it shows you when the name was activated, and it was like 12/24/09. So I was like, it was a Christmas present because we used to do our Christmas on Christmas Eve. So sweet. It was. I guess I just got it and opened it and immediately registered.
Made it. Yeah,
and I was
immediately made
it. Paratan21. That's gonna stay forever.
That's gonna be it. I'm definitely always gonna be a Paramore fan.
Gonna love Paramore my whole life. Yeah,
I love it.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't like the XX,
420 Babe Snatcher 69 XX.
Yeah.
RAR XD.
How'd you know about my alt account?
Because it's my alt account.
We have a joint alt account? Ha, joint. Get it.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, sorry. Mine was 69,420. I got it confused. I always do that. I always do that. I
I
always
used to confuse people in Call of Duty because I was like, oh, was it 40 to 20, 69?
Yeah,
or is it 69, 420?
69,420. Yeah. The joke was that I flipped them and it's 69 and it's the same with its.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You meant horizontally flipped.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's cool.
We don't have to talk about
Or
it.
vertically flipped, I guess.
Yeah, probably vertically.
Yeah, I don't know why I said horizontally.
I was going to let it go. I wasn't going to call you on it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, do my best,
Till next time.
Be careful where you click.